A recent example of me making my pursuit of God practical is something that I've actually been doing for a while, and it's setting alarms for prayer throughout the day. And so this has been effective for me because when I'm like zooming through the day, meetings back to back, just a lot of stuff going on. Phone calls come up, emails coming in. I need to respond. It's like that alarm goes off and I immediately am like, oh, wait, I got to talk to the Lord. And like, this is kind of like my reset throughout the day to make sure that I'm pausing and I'm involving him. Or even, sometimes you can just get real busy and look up and it's like the whole day done went by. And it's like, no, that time where that alarm goes off throughout the day is like, that's my time to really check in and just be like, okay, God, like even today specifically, I'll give you an example, like to just that moment to pause and talk to him, it reminded me of something that I needed to do in obedience. And it was like, sometimes, and not that I intentionally forgot, like it was very much on my mind to do, but it just kind of slipped throughout the day. And it's like, no, I need to do this now. And so those alarms throughout the day for me have been super practical, super easy. Like we set an alarm for everything else, but it's like, it's my throughout the day, like almost like a gut check, like, hey, let's check in, almost like a me and God little mini huddles throughout the day. And I feel like I have like a constant thread of communication with the Lord, but those huddles are like intentional stops. Like, okay, time out. Let's check in. And those are really important for me. And it's proven to be effective. The alarm system throughout the day has proven to be effective as like, okay, no, hard stop. I don't care what you're doing. We need to talk. And so that's one way that I have been able to practically pursue God and make sure that I'm scheduling intentional time with just me and him.
I'm gonna be honest, y'all. Practical pursuit is something that I've wrestled with on and off for many years. And I think the more that I got involved in church culture and church in general over the past, I would say, 10 years, my resolve of what it looks like to practically pursue God has been challenged. It's changed. It's evolved. It's gone back to some previous mindsets, some good, some not good, right? It's been a journey. And where God has me now, one of the ways in which I am practically pursuing God is oftentimes considered or pertaining to stewardship, whether that's my health, whether that's cleaning up this apartment, whether it's even stewarding relationships. I would say stewardship has been something that he has been really pressing upon me, stewarding my finances. Y'all, I got this whole spreadsheet that my friend, that KaLonna, gave me. I did all this color coding. It's crazy, but it works. Stewardship has been the way God has heavily been calling me to pursue my relationship with him, because if I can't steward the things that he allows me to see, the tangible, visible, how will I steward well the things that are invisible? And so when he started dealing with me about stewarding my health, that has been an interesting journey because it hasn't been a linear journey. And one of the resolves that he's birthed in me is, one, keep trying, don't stop. There is something that comes from pursuing something even when you don't have the results you want to see. There's something that comes with like tenacity. That's what he's birthing in me, for being honest. One of the resolves is that I'm going to tenaciously pursue God because he called me to steward the temple that he gave me. I can have setbacks. I can have pain in my body. I could fall off a regimen, but I'm going to get back up, because why would I stop pursuing him when he's never stopped pursuing me, right? When it comes to my finances, y'all, I swear, living in this area, the DMV area, you got to make a lot of money just to make ends meet. And so what a person makes on paper doesn't translate oftentimes to what they truly have to live a full life. And so imagine having that awareness, but still have to deal with the fact that you don't budget. I can talk about government. I can talk about our leaders and how they have not really managed things well, but have I managed my money well, right? So before I can really look at others, God is calling me to look at myself. What is DeAndra doing with her money? How do you know you don't have enough? You don't know where your money going. And so him challenging me to steward my finances well, right? And ironically, I tithe. And so the Bible says that, when you tithe, God will open up a window out of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you don't have room to receive, and that he'll also rebuke the hand of the devourer. Well, I was devouring the things, y'all. I was the devourer. And so he started rebuking me and rebuking my hand for swiping that card and spending so much without care, right? Without regard, without intentionality, without awareness, just swiping, right? And so I was getting rebuked. And it's easy to think that the devourer is always external to us, but sometimes it's us. And so the way I've been practically pursuing God is being a steward. And there's so much scripture that talks about stewarding thing. When you think about scriptures that says, don't despise the days of small beginnings, right? It's talking about not looking past what you currently have to steward, because the blessing will come after that, greater and more will come. But if you despise today, if you're despising something now that's small, that means you're not stewarding it well. You're not stewarding it with care. You're not stewarding it with gratitude. And so he was showing me, how can I bring you into more, DeAndra, when you won't maximize your stewardship here with what you have? And so stewardship has been the way that God has been helping me to practically pursue him. So that's it.
Learning how to practically live and conform to God's will in this season of my life, I think the biggest key to that is being honest. I've had to do a lot of honest self-evaluation and be honest about how I feel about the conforming. Because when we talk about conforming to God's will, it means that what I am now is not gonna work. And so I have to conform, I have to change. There's something that has to die in order for me to get to the shape or the form that God is looking for me to be in, so that his will can be done. And I think there's a real grief that comes with having to conform and lay down your will for God's will. And so for me, the practicality in it all is that I honor the death that I'm having to die. Like, I've had to say to myself, yep, that was hard. Like, okay, yeah, this kind of sucks. But I can honor my honest feelings about a thing and still keep pursuing God. I can still keep going and conforming even while I'm confessing. And so I think a lot of times we try to make it seem as if every part of the journey is just this like rainbow and sunshine situation. And maybe for someone it is, but that is not even what Jesus's journey was like. Jesus did not have all rainbows and sunshine, and neither did his followers. And so I know that it's not gonna be that. And I think my practical pursuit means that I'm honest with myself about what has to conform and what areas I need to continue to allow him to shape me and mold me. And then I think the lesson is that he's graced me for whatever it is that he's changing me into. And so, yeah, I think for me, the practicality in it all is that I'm honest with myself and that I stay on the potter's wheel. I think half the battle is staying. Half the battle is not leaving God when he starts to crush you. And I'm going to use the word crush. I thought about changing it, but I think we think that conform is, or transformation, like we would love to think about that as this beautiful process. And sometimes it is. Sometimes there are very beautiful processes. But sometimes there's a crushing in certain seasons of your life. There is a stripping away. There is a pulling. There is a yanking. There's a snatching. And that is not always the easiest. But when you find a nevertheless, like Jesus found in the Garden of Gethsemane, I feel like the practicality is no matter what, no matter how hard this is, no matter what I face, I'm not leaving. I'm in this thing with you, God. And so I'll cry my tears. I might even be upset. I might have to grieve this thing for a little while, but I'm not leaving you. And I trust you that however you form me, I'm going to be the better for it. And so I'll conform as long as you form me into whoever it is, whatever it is that you desire for me to be. And yeah, I think the practical function is that I just stay committed to him and he stays committed to his will in me. And we're going to go on and see what the end shall be. And so that's all I got.
So one of the ways that I've been learning to live in the conformity of God's will is first acknowledging that it's his will and not mine. One of the scriptures that comes to me right now is when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before his crucifixion. And he was praying, and he was praying so intent that he was starting to bleed, like sweat blood. And one of the things that our pastor has actually preached on this a few years ago, and it was the sermon title called Nevertheless. And in that garden, Jesus is articulating, like, God, if you're willing, take this cup from me, right? Like, what God was asking his son to do was huge. And Jesus could feel the agony of that request. But then Jesus says, nevertheless, not my will, but yours. And so when it comes to conforming to the will of God, I think it's first developing the resolve that it's his will and not yours. It's hard to conform to what you don't agree with, right? If you don't agree with the will of God, you won't conform to it. So getting into a place where I agree unilaterally, universally, without knowing the details, without being able to see 30 years down the road if he doesn't give me that insight, that I agree today with everything that he has for me. I agree today with all of the things that he plans to do in my life. I agree today with every method that he chooses to rebuke me, correct me, reprove me. I choose to agree today with every way that he chooses to love me, to mature me. To conform, I first have to agree. And so I think the way that God has been helping me conform is first working through my agreement with him. And so, yeah, that's it.